that young man has more brain power, more common sense than these people who are ostensibly teaching him and telling him that he shouldn't be chanting USA. Good for him and good for all the parents who reject this nonsense. But look at what's all around them. Just down the road in Oakland, you have another football player who is disrespecting this country by refusing to stand for the national anthem. Raiders running back Marshawn Lynch sat on the team's bench during the Star-Spangled Banner opening day on Sunday. However, it's not relegated to just California. These anti-American toxins have infected several teams in the NFL. And so here's the question. What, if anything, is the league going to do about it? Joining me now from our bureau in Washington, D.C., political commentator and professor at Johns Hopkins School of Education, Wendy Osefo, Ph.D. Wendy, I think we've hit a low point if the school is insinuating that somehow chanting USA is offensive to some people. Next, it's going to be the national anthem is offensive. Oh, wait a minute. I guess we're already there.
No, I don't think so. I think that the school took it a little bit too far, but you also have to look at this in context. The school was saying that it was used in a derogatory way for those individuals who are not from the United States. So when you put it into that context, then we can see why the school maybe said, let's pull this back a little bit. But as an overarching policy, no, I do not agree with that. I think it's completely fine to chant USA. However, if you're doing it to basically ostracize individuals who are not from this country and make them feel unwelcome, then that is not American at all.
There's a lot of people listening to what you just said, and they would say in retort to that, well, if they're offended by USA, then maybe they ought to leave the USA. It seems to be a reasonable response because if we're Americans and we chant USA, USA, it's supposed to be a unifying force. As that young man said,
no.
We're all Americans here. And so why in the world would it offend an American to be chanting USA? On the other hand, if someone's from another country and they're in our country and they're offended by hearing USA, USA, then they ought to think about buying a ticket elsewhere.
Well, you see, that's a very myopic view of things. Myself, I am an American. I am a U.S. citizen, but I am Nigerian. So I have been in situations where there have been a large population of Nigerians in a certain area, and we have had things chanted at us showing that we are not American. So you see, that is the view that Americans use that makes it seem as though you're either American or you're not. No, you have to be inclusive of all people. And there are people in this country who are American citizens who feel a love and devotion to this country, but they are also have other ethnicities and they are also from other countries. So when you look at it from that frame, then it comes back to my point of trying to use that term in a derogatory way.
All right, well, I would point out that the United States Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Stars and Stripes are all, by definition, inclusive. And we would hope that people in this country who happen to be American citizens and non-American citizens alike would understand that all of those things are inclusive, not exclusive. Simply, yeah, sure, you're exclusive club of the United States, and we are an exclusive club, which brings me to the NFL. Okay, so here we have it happening again. These players are sitting down for the national anthem. They're not standing up. Not a lot of them. There's a few of them. Why do you suppose the NFL is not reacting to this and punishing these players?
Well, we have to look at the bigger issue here. And when we talk about the use of certain words, whether it's Colin Kaepernick or Jamil Hill, which is bubbling up right now in ESPN, we have to be very clear and honest here. When people use the term racist or when people use the term white supremacist, they're not talking about a racial epithet. Rather, they're talking about the social and political ideologies and policies that make it so individuals are marginalized and systems continue to be perpetuated in a negative manner. Now, when you have individuals who adhere to those social and political ideologies that are white supremacist in nature, we have to start looking at why those constructs exist. So, for instance, let's take Donald Trump, who failed to repudiate the incidents in Charlottesville, or who championed birtherism, or who led the charge against the Central Park Five. Those things are concrete evidence that speak to the issue of white supremacist behavior as well as racism. These are no longer opinions. So when it comes to the NFL, these people are sitting down to boycott systems. It's not about individuals, it's about a system. And as far as the NFL is concerned, they have a bigger issue. It's not just people kneeling or sitting down for the national anthem. They also have issues of people using the N-word or individuals who are beating their wives. So they have to repudiate all of these repulsive behaviors. And I don't think sitting down is one of them.
Speaking of repudiate, you said a lot there. I would clear the facts on Donald Trump, he did repudiate both sides of the people in Charlottesville who were, yes, he did. He repudiated them both. He may not have done it on your schedule or exactly the way you wanted, but he did.
No, he's the president of the United States. There's only one schedule. You do it one time, you do it one time. People have lost their lives. You do not have to circle back 3 times.
Maybe you can give Donald Trump the schedule that he needs so he knows next time.
I sure will.
On how to tweet that. But as far as the NFL is concerned, this is a private organization. And they have every right to sit on these players. They are members of a club. They're hyper paid and they're hyper spoiled. They don't even know how to pull up an airline ticket on their own. They're an elite crowd, and the NFL should have a standard because they are paying a price for it. They're taking a hit in the ratings. Millions and millions of Americans are boycotting the NFL. I did last year. I'm going to probably do it again. I tried to watch the first week, but I saw a little bit of this, and I said, here we go again. In the end, the American people have the final say here.
Absolutely, but let's tease this out a little bit. There are people who are boycotting the NFL also because they have not hired Colin Kaepernick. So it's not people who are boycotting the NFL just because people are taking a seat during the national anthem. There's also people who are boycotting the NFL because of the way in which they have disenfranchised Colin Kaepernick. Furthermore, you talk about the NFL being a private organization. Well, the owner of the Eagles franchise, who said, I will not give Colin Kaepernick a job because he sits down, gave a job to Riley Cooper, who was caught on audio using the N-word. So we have here an owner who says, you know what, it's okay to use the N-word, but it's not okay to sit down for the flag.
I don't know
They need to be very clear. They need to be very clear about what is a priority for them, because using the N-word, especially in a community that's supposed to be inclusive, does not show what the NFL is. So if an owner says, you know what, Colin Kaepernick is bad for sitting down, then he better also say that Riley Cooper is bad for using the N-word and he will not give him a job.
Well, you're a PhD, I'm not, but with all due respect, Wendy, you're cherry-picking stuff here and making non-sequiturs.
Cherry-picking? The guy said that N-word and then he got a job.
Colin Kaepernick is sitting down because he's a crummy quarterback. And yeah, sitting down during the national anthem probably has a role in that. But now, wait a minute, but also the owners have a right to say, hey, listen, I don't want this malcontent on my team. They have every right. And I think it would behoove the owners.
Is it not malcontent for a guy to say the N-word?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay, so why does he have a job?
I don't know. I don't know the NFL that well anymore because I'm boycotting, so I don't know how to answer that. But I do know that Colin Kaepernick, I followed his career, being a 49er fan. I know he stinks, to be honest with you, and that's why he's not playing and he's overpaid.
No, he's better than half of the quarterbacks.
So the bottom line is the NFL needs to come up with a policy here, and I think it would behoove each individual NFL team to come up with a policy that says, hey, listen, strictly in the contract. And by the way, they have moral turpitude clauses in these contracts that they could trigger if they wanted. If the owners had any guts whatsoever, they'd say, hey, you're violating the moral turpitude clause, you're out because you're sitting down for the national anthem, and that's exactly what the NFL should do globally for the league. Otherwise, I think the American people are going to switch it off, as they have every right to do. Wendy.